Good afternoon, everyone. A very good afternoon, good morning, good evening to one and all present here from the different parts of the world. Myself, Dr. Renu Mishra, I'm welcoming you from Australia, Melbourne, on behalf of Research Graduate. And today we are going to talk about on the topic of research methods and research methodology. I know this topic is, it can go. We'll talk about starting from the basics level, and we'll try to take up it to the desired level of probably answering all of your queries. However, it's very important for understand that many amongst us who have a very little or no understanding about the basics of research methods as well. So we'll have to we'll have to. I'll try to cover the nitty gritties of research methods. All right. So this webinar is organized by research graduate. So wherein they aim to provide all the solutions for your queries, and these queries are not only related to how to go about your publications and writing them. It's also about supporting and suggesting you about how to start it. I mean, right from the very basic of selecting a topic and statistical analysis, it's proofreading, editing, everything. So it's a one step solution for all your research queries and concerns which you have, so you can rely very well on research graduate. Now, if in case of getting in touch with the research graduate, so you can browse research graduate on research.graduate.com, and you can email them on info@researchgraduate.com, and the number which is flashing on your screen is for WhatsApp or calling. All right, so just in case of any query, any suggestion, even if you want to take, the team would be happy to help you all. Now, talking about this webinar structure, we goes around 90 minutes or so, followed by a question and answers session of 30 minutes, which precisely I don't take it as 30 minutes, as in we can go beyond 30 minutes as well. As long as you guys have queries, we'll be there to answer them. However, the PPT, the recordings, and the certificates will all be shared with you once this webinar ends, and you will all be receiving these documents on your email ID once with which you have a just a second with which you have registered. So please make sure that all of you are registered with a uh, correct email ID. Okay. Now, one important thing to remind all of you is that please increase the YouTube video quality to the desired standards, and especially for the ones who have been logged in from the phone. You might can have a glitch because generally the phone screens are small enough, and you might not be able to see the slides properly. So please, if you are comfortable using your screens, bigger screens, please switch them. Otherwise, PPTs will any which ways will be uh, emailed to you. Okay. So now, uh, let's get started with the webinar. And before we actually gorge on the webinar, there is just a request that I would say that if you have any queries and questions during the webinar, kindly don't type it in the chat box right now. We'll be taking all the queries by the end of it, by the end of the webinar, because taking queries in between the uh, webinar becomes slightly deviated from the topic of discussion, and which can create a time waste for others as well. So once we are done with the session discussion, we'll all discuss about all your queries you have. Now, coming to what is research, and we'll be talking about research methods, research methodology, what is it. Now, before starting all that, you should be knowing that what is the basic of it. Now, when I say what is the basic of it, what is research, right? Now, many of you, I'm sure, with what all understandings you have, you must be having a clear, discussion on in your mind that what exactly is research. So, why we are talking about research. Now, it's very important to make sure that what all we understand about research is correct. Okay, so a very basic understanding and a very generic one to make you understand about research is that when you do a careful understanding about any topic, any topic of your domain or your interest. So it is about researching, like continuously searching about something. That something is different with all of you. So when you are investigating any problem, any concerns, any issues in hand, and researching about it again and again, researching about it again and again, that becomes research till the time you find out the solutions. So back in your mind, if you go and have a look about what kind of research I'm doing, let's say any one of you is writing a review paper, or any one of you is on the verge of starting their PhD thesis or MPhil research. So you will be having a clear thought that this is my problem of concern, this is my research problem, and on which I will be investigating. So that is research. Now, when you talk about research, it is of two types: inductive and deductive. Now, very simple difference, or in a basic term, if I'll tell you, in inductive research, you derive the hypothesis. Now, what are hypotheses? I'll be telling you during the webinar. In the inductive research, you observe the events, what are happening around you, and based on that research, based on that analysis, you draw out hypotheses, you draw out new theories or new methods. Okay. Now, exactly opposite happens in deductive. In deductive, you basically first you have a hypothesis in your hand, and then you test it. Okay, so you have a theory in your hands and then you test it. Okay, that's a very simple one: inductive and deductive. So in inductive, you come out of with hypothesis, you come up with a hypothesis, and in deductive, you test these hypotheses. Very simple. Okay, now just for your basic understanding, for the timing is, hypotheses are the assumptions which we have during the research. These remain assumptions till the time they are tested. Okay, so once they are tested, either you convert them into a theory, either you convert them into a model or a framework based out on of your research investigation. Okay, all right, so let's move ahead further. Now, this is what we talked about, that what exactly is research. So research is basically when you have a research problem in your hand. Now let me just come out and break these terms for you. Now, whenever you thought of something, some sort of research to be going on, you come up with what should be write on. you know I want to write a paper. That's the general query which I also come across with students, that I want to write a paper but I don't know what to write on. Now, whenever you want to write something, want to write something, it's not that you want to write something. Writing a research, it's the end part of it. When you come up with a paper or when you come up with a report, that's the stage when you have done your till when you have done your homework. Okay, so writing comes in the last stage. You should say what I want to research on. Okay, so in any kind of research, you always have a research problem in your hand. Either you want to understand any evolution, or you want to understand any relationship between two variables, or you want to understand impact of one factor on another one, anything. Okay, you have a research problem in hand. Now, research problem is slightly broader. You break that research problem further and come into your research objectives and questions. Okay, now these objectives and questions make your research more focused, more approachable, more to be either, you can quantify it, or you want to describe it in qualitatively. Okay, whatever method you want to discuss it with. So you have research problem in hand, which are further broken into research questions and objectives. Okay, so this research is basically nothing but finding answers for those questions. Now, if I'm saying that AI has an impact on business these days, let's say, right? So I want to understand what exactly is the influence of AI, that is artificial intelligence, on business dynamics. Very simple, but it's a very broad topic to be researched upon. I'll further narrow it down. Now, these narrowing happens with the help of your questions or objectives. Now, talking about hypotheses are those assumptions, unless and until tested, they remain assumptions. I mean, if there is rain, there will be traffic. Now, this is just assumption which I has assumed. So, if I am making this assumption in the starting of my research, I am doing a deductive research. I will now test in my research that whether if it's rain, there will be traffic or not. So by the end of my research, I'll come to an answer that yes, it is raining and yes, there will be traffic. Or if it's raining but there is no traffic, so I'll accept or reject my assumption hypothesis. However, in case of inductive research, what we do is we first research about the environment or road scenario during rains, or we make calculations or we make our research progress. Then at the end of it, we come to a statement that is, whenever there is a rain, there is traffic. So in inductive research, we come to the hypothesis during the end of it. So this research basically is accepting or rejecting the hypothesis or formulating the hypothesis. Also, when you are consolidating your understanding about any problem in hand, that is your research. Okay, now coming further, what are the characteristics of research? Now it's very simple, and just not following the theoretical way. Research firstly has to be a very systematic process to be going on. Now that systematic process, I can't say that you follow these steps. For instance, you should first understand your area of interest. You should first go for the related literature for it, then understand your interest, that what you want to do in that. Now, for every research supervisor, for every faculty, this process can be little bit here and there. So there is no fixed steps that first literature review, then this. You may can have a different route depending upon your researcher documents. Okay, but there is always a systematic procedure. Okay, it's not like that you first go for title, then you go for methodology, then after you're going for literature review, and in literature review first you're doing this. There has everything, whatever steps you do, there has to be a systematic procedure for that. Okay, research should also be very logical. It should be in such a way that your research results can be used by others. Now here's a point why I say that your research results should be used by others. Now reason being is, for all those, specifically for those who are new researchers, I'm telling for them particularly, whenever we are in a situation where we are not finding a right topic to work on, where we are confused enough that what particular area we should work on, then in that case you should be focusing on the results or recommendations of the previous researchers. Why I'm telling you this? Because that gives you an idea of what is happening in that research domain. Now for instance, you go and choose to study the literature, and in which choose to study the literature of, let's say, artificial intelligence again. Now you find that many of the researchers have already worked on the influence of AI on business, or influence of AI on marketing or HR or student learning. you know Nobody has talked about the positive aspect of AI. So you gain that understanding, you develop your interest, and then you've started working on the positive aspect of AI or the positive influence of AI, right? So your results actually should be a directional way for other researchers. Your recommendation should be such a way that you carve the way of somebody else's research. Okay, now that is something which will happen. That is something which happens gradually and steadily. Also, one very important thing which I would like to tell you all, that research is not supposed to be complicated. Let me just just go back to the one characteristics, that is, it should be simple and timely, right? I'll tell you why. See, basically, we are doing research to a contribution. This contribution can either be in literature, or for the organizations, or for the society at large, or for your own interest domain, people, policy makers, it is for others. If it's not simple, it will not be understood by anyone. There is no compulsion, there is nothing written anywhere that you have to use the complicated test, or you have to use all the tests in one go. No, this is actually not the aim of research, to make it complicated. You can simply move ahead with your research with simple, descriptive statistics, defining mean, median, mode about your data. That also is research. So making it complicated does not necessarily mean make it research only. First thing. Second thing, a never ending investigation is not called a research. So, we hit by COVID in 2020. Now we are already in 2024, or rather, midst of 2024. We have seen enough work on COVID, probably in every aspect. Now, if I've started something in 2020 and my research is just elongated till that particular investigated under investigation topic has gone out of the site, there's no point on it. That's why we say that whenever you are doing PhD, particularly for the people who are doing PhD, please keep yourself updated about the literature of your domain. Okay, because if there is any change, because you have started PhD in a particular year, that takes time. You have already invested time. There must be some changes going on around, but we are so engrossed in our own topic that we might overlook them. So just in just to make sure that your results are, you know mm, as per the current trend and they make sense in current times, you should always keep an eye on the literature, or on what's happening in your area of interest or your area of PhD, specifically for the people who are PhD. So that's why we say that it should be simple and it should be timely. Now, why we do research, probably, what is the purpose of research? So either we want to explore, or like I said, a research problem is there. So either we want to explore about a problem. Okay, now what is this about? Like AI, like I'm talking again about AI is something which is already been a talk of town, but there is more to understand about it. There is further quite a lot about it which needs to be understood. So that becomes exploratory. When you are exploring about a problem, when you are looking ahead about a problem and you want to understand that what leads, exactly this problem is about, what leads to what results, and what is the information about this problem. That means you're exploring about it. Okay, so wherein you are conducting studies about to understand, to explore. Okay, that kind of study titles gives you an idea that yes, this research is exploratory. Okay, now when you're talking about, you know the problem, now you're talking about the influence of that problem, cause and effect of this problem, various relationships related to that problem. That means you are explaining about it. Okay, now if I say that I want to understand the influence of AI on the digital marketing activities. Okay, now I want to understand the effect of AI on digital marketing. That means I'm explaining further about AI. Okay, that becomes explanatory. Now, it'll become very easy for us that whether it is a explanatory research or a exploratory research, if we understand what exactly explanatory or exploratory researches are. Okay, now in exploratory research, coming back to that, what is this problem? The simple what. Now in explanatory research, you come across by why. Now if AI, now exploratory will say AI has an influence on digital marketing. We are explaining AI has an influence on financial activities of business. Explanatory will say why. Why exactly? What aspects of digital marketing are getting an influence from AI? That we will know from explanatory research. Okay, so related research questions and objective you come across with. Then comes descriptive. Now basically descriptive is a combination of explanatory and exploratory both. Okay, so you are understanding about AI. What aspects of business does it introduces changes to, also why it does so. So now when you're talking about descriptive research, you are basically having a questions which are explaining the what part also of the problem and why part also of problem. So you are describing the problem from a holistic perspective. Okay, so all those who are into any kind of research or probably would like to initiate any kind of research, they can categorize on the basis of research objectives you have. Okay, now very a quick tip which I would like to give you, that if you are writing a research paper, so don't make it based on a descriptive research. Reason being, it becomes very lengthy. Primarily if you are pursuing a PhD or probably any master's degree or MPhil project, this descriptive research makes sense because it's you are basically explaining the problem from a holistic perspective. Okay, okay, this is what we did, and this is basically different aspect of exploratory, descriptive or explanatory research, that when you start asking questions about it, or when what kind of structured, or it is unstructured or highly structured. Now talking about, after understanding research, okay, now we know that research is investigation. Now let's talk about research methods. Okay, research methods basically, now let's say if you are constructing a house, you any one of you is constructing the house, the tools with which that house will be made is research methods. So let's say your research is your house, you are going to investigate about a topic and you have a problem in hand, you want to reach to the solutions. With what all kind of tools you will use, what kind of sampling you will go for, what kind of data collection tool you will use, what kind of analysis techniques you will, these are research methods. Okay, so any kind of strategy, any kind of processes, what all you're using, and you're collecting the information. Now one another thing is that many a time I have seen, or probably you also must have seen that, what exactly is data, you know so any kind of information which you gather, which you need for your research, is data. It can be descriptive also, detailed information. It can be statistical also, numerical information. Both falls into the category of data. It's not like that, only the statistical information is data. No, any kind of information which you gather for your research is data. Okay, now coming back to understanding about research methods. So research methods are all those ways to collect the information, to work on the information is research methods. Okay. Now, understanding about various types of research methods. Now, first is qualitative. Now, understand, just pay attention here that what exactly is qualitative research? See, whenever we are having data, and now I'll tell you the difference on the basis of the data. Okay. Now, you all understand what a data is. When you have a detailed data, information which is non numerical, which does not have number in it, that is qualitative research. Okay, so let's say you travel. Okay, you traveled to some XYZ country, and you are asking, you somebody is asking about your experience. How did you feel? That means that is whatever information you are sharing with that person, that's qualitative data. Okay, any, just understand like this. Whenever you are telling, or whenever you are dealing with an information which gives you an answer about how and why, that's qualitative research methods you are using. Okay, so let's say you want to understand the travel experience of people traveling different continents, that what kind of experience they have when they travel in different continents, how their different, how their experiences vary by traveling into different continents. So they will tell their detailed experiences. Okay, so that means you are, so with the nature of the data you understand that this is qualitative research. Okay, all right. So let's come on to how actually you go ahead with qualitative research. Okay, now when you talk about qualitative research, just understand this way. Like I told you that whenever you collect the qualitative information, it has to be a detailed one. Okay, so it has to be detailed one. Like for instance example, you are collecting data is one-on-one interview. Okay, so you're asking about the information from that individual, probably experiences, behavior, details about that behavior, why such source. Okay, for instance, ethnographic research. Ethnographic research particularly is used in social and behavioral sciences. Okay, where you want to understand that how individuals behave in particular societies, how they behave being an individual in a particular part of a particular domain or society of interest. So what you are doing is you are collecting a huge amount of information. What happened in focus group is you, rather than going and interviewing individually, you have a group of people and you give them a topic for discussion and you make note of, you collect information from them, that what is their opinion on that same topic which is given to all of them at one point, how different is their opinions are, what kind of information they share amongst each other. That's called focus group. Okay, like for instance process of observation, you are viewing the individuals or probably the research participants and how they are behaving, that's your observation. Okay, so the information which you are collecting from them, the data which you are collecting from them is detailed. It cannot be quite, like for example somebody is behaving, you are not categorizing it that he's behaving one, he's behaving two. You will explain it. That qualifies this research as qualitative. Okay, in case study research, you are investigating or probably you are understanding about one individual or probably one organization. So the whole interest of your research focuses on one individual or organization or country or region or society or group. Okay, now let's talk about quantitative. Now when we are talking about quantitative, the information, whatever kind of information, whatever kind of data you are collecting, that gets the nature of being statistical in number, quantifiable in number, numerical in nature. Okay, that's the difference. I mean, that's the difference between quantitative and qualitative. That the nature of the data which is collected in both of these research is, in qualitative it is detailed, focusing on how and why. In quantitative it becomes what. Okay, or do you, or how often, so do you like ice cream, yes or no, how often you eat ice cream, once, twice, thrice, 4 times in a week, or 5 times in a week, right? So the data which can be either ranked or categorized, now you can understand that anything which is expressed in terms of numbers fits into the category of quantitative research. Okay, all right. Now, how actually we do the what are the quantitative research, different types of quantitative research? Basically, when you're talking about descriptive research, you are describing the data. What is the various kind of characteristics of that particular data? For instance, in terms of mean, in terms of median, in terms of mode. Okay, so that is descriptive research. Experimental research, we all know that when you are conducting in experiment, that means, for instance, what kind of researches we do in our lab. So you have a control group or you have an experimental group, you're comparing the results from the both. Correlation research is when you are trying to understand the relationship between two variables. Lastly, survey research, we'll do it all in detail. Lastly, survey research is when you are collecting information from group of individuals through survey and questionnaires. Okay, now with all these research methods, what do you get? You get a quantifiable information, okay, which can be expressed in numbers. That's how you understand, quantifiable information which can be expressed in numbers. Okay, all right. Now comes mixed method. I hope by far now, if you're all clear with qualitative and quantitative research, you all must be, understanding both these kind of research. Now club them together. Now club them together as in, do you like ice cream? Why do you like ice cream? Okay, so in a way you are collecting qualitative data as well and quantitative data as well. So what you are doing is basically you are explaining the problem completely. It's a holistic approach to get the results and to justify the results. So mixed method is basically suggested, mixed method research is basically suggested so as that, let's say for example, you have quantitative data, you have analyzed it, now you have the reason for so and so results with the help of qualitative data which you have collected. Okay, so what exactly you do is you understand, you coin, you derive the research problem with the help of qualitative data. You have information, you've collected that information, you have explained the research problem. Okay, now in order to find answer for the particular research problem, you collect the quantitative data also. So both these kind of research, they complement each other when it comes to mixed methods. Okay, now mixed method generally is desirable. It gives you more concrete results. However, it is time consuming as well. I mean, more concrete result stating that does not mean that either quantitative research or qualitative research should not be done. That does not mean. However, in short time, mixed method is generally been not done by scholars. Reason being, it takes time because you are collecting two kinds of data which are opposite nature of each other, then analyzing them with different ways, so which takes time. Okay, so that's why we say that mixed method generally takes time. Okay, now these are the mixed research methods. Now, how actually you do mixed method research, like whether to do qualitative first or to do quantitative first or vice versa. So basically you can do either ways. You can actually do qualitative first, which is called as exploratory design. So first you do the qualitative data collection and analyze it, then later on moving to quantitative analysis. Okay, you can actually do reverse also, that you can collect quantitative data first, analyze first, and then follow up with qualitative. Okay, however, in a parallel design, in a conversion parallel design, both these methods, qualitative and quantitative, are being done together. They are being compare and relate, and then interpretation are being made. Okay, so in any which ways, like depends upon, for instance, somebody has a real crunch of time, so preferable is to go for the data collection together parallelly, and then you compare the results, what is quantitative analysis is saying, what is quantitative, or relate them, or justify one data with another kind of data and make your interpretation. So just understand this way, that when you are going for exploratory sequential design, that means you're doing qualitative research first, which is followed by quantitative. You are explaining the research problem. Just understand like this: I need to explain. So when I'm explaining something, I need information, I need detailed information, and from where I get the detailed information, I get from it qualitative. Okay, and vice versa is an explanatory, wherein you do the quantitative research first. When you're doing parallel, so I think the name itself suggests, then you are performing the parallel research methods together. Okay, okay. Now coming and understanding what is research methodology. So I gave you the example, or I I told you that, let's say you're building a house, and the tools, the techniques, different types of tools which are used to make the house are research methods. The plan and the blueprint of making that house is research methodology. So like, here it'll be a room, here it'll be a master bedroom, here it'll be living room, here it'll be kitchen, here it'll be dining area. That plan is methodology. How exactly you are progressing with your research, what particular kind of design will be taken, that is methodology. Okay, so how you are systematically arranging the nitty-gritties of your research comes under research methodology. So research methodology is a broader term which overall relates the whole, or the probably tells you the whole plan of it. And that's what I'll tell you, when you are presenting your synopsis. Okay, when you are discussing your synopsis, you primarily focuses on research methodology, that this will be my research design. So let's say you're saying, I'll be going with convergent parallel design, so which has qualitative and quantitative both. Okay, now depending upon the word count of synopsis, you can further go for the research methods to be used. Now if I'm going for qualitative research, what kind of data collection tool I'll be using? Okay, so research methodology is basically the blueprint of your research, that how you're going to conduct research. Further in that, you discusses the research methods. Okay, now this research methodology and the understanding about this research methodology should be very clear. And one thing I would like to tell you all, that whenever you are doing a research paper, or whenever you are doing a research project or thesis, or which is like, your MPhil or your PhD, any kind of research which you are doing, always make sure that you are not only focusing on mentioning the research methods. Okay, so you need to make sure that why I have chosen it. Justification is very important. Okay, second thing, your methodology is determined on what kind of research objectives you have. Okay, what kind of, like, whether you want to have the identify the relationship between two variables, or you want to understand what extent they are related, or whether they are related or not related, what is the influence of one variable over another. This kind of objectives will help you decide that what will be your research methodology. Okay, now, so randomly, if anybody will come to you that, this is my research title, this is my research problem, what will be my research methodology? Now, that topic and that research problem can have research methodology different from one another. Like, one researcher can have different methodology for the same research problem. However, discussing the precise objectives or telling the precise objective for that particular research problem will help you telling the particular methods to be used, or particular methodology to be followed. Okay, all right. Now, research methodology, I told you that what exactly are the methods, rules, and principles. So whenever, make sure that, if you have any concerns or deciding any which particular layout to be followed when you are talking about research methodology, Saunders research onion, just discuss that in your project, or probably, goes by, because it has every kind of research method which to be used. So you may choose out of it. At first layer is this Saunders research onion. It's Saunders research onion. So basically, I tell to those students who have probably, generally we get confused when it comes to discussing research methodology in our project, or how to structure research methodology in our synopsis, or probably in our research report. So you may actually take help of this. So it's a diagrammatic representations which tell you that, what exactly are the search methodology our study is going to follow. Okay, so significance of research methodology, I think by for now you all must have understand that it basically briefs that how the particular research objectives and the particular research questions are being answered, what kind of training tools and techniques, research tools and techniques are being used. So basically, whenever you are having, let's say you are having a viva, or you're having a questions about your research methodology, or you have got a feedback about your research methodology from any publisher or any editor of any journal. So generally this questions comes that, why this methodology, because everybody have different research acumen. I might find interview, one-on-one interview, a better research methods than going for a quantitative research method, right? But if you have justified your quantitative research method, that this is why quantitative methodology is being used, which is okay. So choosing a research method is not should not be the only aim. Justifying it is also important. Okay, I hope you're getting my point, that we are not only focusing on choosing our research method, rather we are also concerned that this methodology is adopted because of such a reason, or our sample size is less. One, the since sample size, I've told you, sample basically are the chosen respondents from the population. Okay, since we are talking about methodology, so this should you should know it, that you collect data, you collect information from people. So that if all those people are too many in number, You choose a representatives out of them. That becomes your sample. So the sample size, these number of people which you qualified as sample are less, generally less in qualitative research as compared to quantitative research. Okay, so just quick tip which I would like to share it with you, that in quantitative research your sample size is large as compared to qualitative research. Okay, all right. Moving ahead, methods and methodology, the difference between, now I think you both know, methods are the particular tools and information to be used, and methodology is the whole way of performing the research. Okay, now there are a couple of aspects related to research methodology. Okay, now when you talk about measurement objectives, now these are, or the objectives in general, these are the particular intended whys of the research. Now, when I say whys of the research, that means you are looking for the answers for these objectives based on which your whole research is aimed at. Okay, now these objectives generally, what I always tell, that is should be very precise. Okay, should be very precise. That means it should not be very lengthy. It should be very simple, very straightforward, very measurable, I would say that. Okay, very to the point, that this is what I want to measure. The language should be very simple. Okay, because you do not want to assume in your results anything. You do not want to assume, so you know what to measure. You do not want to have assumptions towards the end of results. Okay, now somebody asked me why, Uma Jha asked me why. I think she's asking about that, why qualitative research have less sample size. Okay, now basically, first one is that uh, the reason, primarily reason for the less sample size of qualitative research is because of the saturation. Now when I say saturation, is generally in qualitative research you're asking the same questions to number of people, which you do in quantitative also. However, the responses in qualitative research are more detailed. So in order to avoid the complexity of those results adding to the of those responses adding to the results, the sample size of qualitative research is less. Okay, so when you have detailed answers to be to be expected from the respondents, and you have less sample size, that saturation which I said, the chances of getting the same kind of answers, this is what we understand by saturation, that when you get the similar kind of responses from the same people. So that's why we keep, so if you have large number of people in qualitative also, so the chances of that saturation will be really high. Okay, now second thing also, you are taking detailed, exactly, right, Uma, you got it right. So when you are taking the details information, detailed data from the people, so you want to understand that heterogeneity of the responses. You got it right. Okay, that's why we say that the sample size in the qualitative should be, is generally small. Okay, and the in-depth nature of qualitative research is also leads to this low sample size. Now rest of the question I would like to request that we can take towards the end of the webinar. Okay, now we were on measurement of objectives, we're done with it. Now let's say data collection. Now data, you all understand, right? What is data? What exactly is data is? Now data is any kind of information which you need to have for your research. Okay, now you all understand. Now data collection is very important. Right kind of data collected decides the results, or rather, I should say that correct results. Okay, now here you are collecting the information, here you are collecting the data, so as you can find you can find the association between variables. Now, what are variables? A quick discussion on that. Variables are basically those factor which we are studying in our research. Now, either we are identifying those variables, or we are testing the relationship between variables, or we are trying to understand that how much they are related to each other. Okay, now they are dependent or they are independent variables. Okay, dependent means any kind of changes in independent variable will cause a change in dependent, and there are some variables which are qualified as extraneous variables, which are not in the control of the researcher, which come during the course of the research, for which there are a couple of ways to control these extraneous variables which researcher has to employ. Okay, now coming back to the data collection, this is basically the the um, information which we collect. Now again, I will just request that if we can make down our questions noted somewhere, and we can take towards the end of the webinar. I'll be glad to answer all of them. Okay, all right. Now, when you are talking about qualitative, you have a particular type of data collection methods. Quantitative, particular type. In mixed method, both these will be included. Okay, now let's say for instance you have questionnaires in your hand, a list of questions with you. This is again a data collection tool in quantitative research. You have to collect information from 250 people. You will send them questionnaire, so make sure your questionnaire is not too long, so that if somebody is giving me 50 questions to answer, I will obviously not do it. So your data collection tool should be appropriately chosen, should be appropriately designed. Okay, all right, so that you get the right kind of data with you. Next is survey. That's what we are talking about is when survey is basically a way with which you collect the data from people on your research interest. It can be any. Survey has a set of questions. Okay, now in this you give options to the respondents to choose from to give you the right data which you are exactly looking for. Then comes your reporting plan. Now this reporting plan basically what you did, how you did, what you did is what research you did, what you started with, research problem, what you collected, literature review data, how you processed it, data analysis, data interpretation, and what results you get. Entire consolidation of all this is reporting plan. Okay, so basically you need to justify all of it whenever required. Okay, and then you present this reporting plan with the help of PowerPoint. I'm sure all of you must be doing it whenever your defense viva or your uh, middle vivas or preliminary defense vivas are there. Although we have a break, and let's skip this break and continue with the discussion. Okay, now let's talk about qualitative versus quantitative research methodology. I'm sure that by far now you all are clear what is quantitative data, quantitative research, and qualitative research. They are basically, um, you know, um, uh, differentiated on the basis of the data type. So here, when you talk about the quantitative research, now you all can, understand in your mind that what I'm doing, if I'm testing any theory, if I'm testing any hypothesis, my research is quantitative. Okay. If I want to make any theory, if I want to formulate any theory, or if I'm formulating any theory, I'm focusing more on qualitative theory. Okay. So many respondents few respondents, like I told you, sample size. Data collection is done through your survey, observations, experiments. Data collection here also you may done through with focus groups, case studies, interviews, and there are different kind of analysis methods as well. Like in quantitative, we generally employ softwares like SPSS, Excel. In qualitative, we go for analysis, content analysis, thematic analysis, and softwares like NVivo can be used for qualitative research methodology. Now here, the basic point of difference in both these kind of research starts with the type of the data which you collect. Okay, so which research methodology I should use? This is the question which generally we ask, or you must have been having in your mind. Now, this research methodology choice completely depends upon what exactly you want to find out. Okay, what exactly you want to find out, as in my research problem, which is further letting me investigate it that what exactly I want to do with this research problem. Let's say I want to understand that how the higher education teaching fraternity understands or takes AI as a challenge to higher education. Like students are using chat gpt and how it is replacing even the human faculties, and I want to understand that. So it's very clear that I want to explore the influence of whether there is any influence or what kind of influence AI is having in higher education. So I need to take the understanding of faculties. I want to take the opinion of faculties. My data will be of qualitative in nature. Second thing, not necessarily that you at first go will decide that what kind of methodology I need to go for. Not necessarily at all. You understand the research problem. Then you come across that what aspect of this research problem I want to investigate on. Now, I know that yes, AI has an influence on higher education teaching. I want to understand the extent of that influence. That I don't want to take the opinion. I want to take that, whether they take it as a challenge or not, or I want to measure that to what extent AI has created a rift or probably has contributed towards the higher education learning. My data will be of that nature, or probably can go for the quantitative. Now, if I want to understand that yes, AI is for real, it contributing to any challenge to higher education? If then to what extent? Probably I will go for the mixed methods. So this research methodology will be decided on the basis of the research objectives I set for my research. Then further that what kind of data collection tool I'll be using, how many respondents I'll be using, but depending on the nature of the methodology I'll go for. Okay. All right. So this is further the difference between qualitative and quantitative research methodology. So I have told you in on the basis of what kind of tools which we go for, collection methods which we go for. There are examples also. Okay. Now, what, like for example, data when you come across in quantitative or probably in qualitative. Okay, the qualitative data will represent probably numbers, percentage, ranking, categories. That so and so percentage of the respondents believe in using AI. Okay, so and so percentage of respondents is posing with challenges in AI. When it comes to qualitative aspect of research, it will give you that why there is a challenge, what kind of challenges they are coming across with. Okay, so Not only the nature of the data differs from qualitative to quantitative, however, the interpretation of the data also differs. I mean, interpretation as in the data examples which you get from both the kind of research is different from each other. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about the methodology when you go for qualitative research design. Now, whenever, like by far now, I'm sure you must have got an idea that when we are talking about qualitative research, so we all know that we have a data which is explanatory in nature, okay, detailed in nature. So its analysis has to be like that. Okay. Now, for example, in narrative research methodology, when you are opting for qualitative research, under qualitative research, you are narrating the information collected from your respondents, like what were their experiences, what were their perception towards the experiences, how they took particular incident, so you're narrating. Okay, for example, you're talking about action research, you're basically relating the information, you're basically relating the data which you have collected to any established theory. Okay, when you're talking about grounded theory approach, so basically what you're doing is you are collecting the information on a particular topic from different sources, and you are going forward towards a concrete interpretation. So if you say that I'm going for a qualitative research, what all different kind of approaches I can take are these. Okay, so if you want to investigate about a particular event or a particular phenomena, you will go for phenomenological research. Okay, and how people, let's say for example, if somebody wants to talk about the era of COVID, how that event happened and how does it change the lives of people, and what were the experiences of the people going through that time zone, phenomenological research. Okay, all right, coming ahead, qualitative research methods that we already discussed about: observation, what you have seen, what you have heard, you are making a detailed record of it. Interviews, we already know that when you are asking individually questions to your respondents. Focus group, I told you already, and the surveys are distributing the questions. Secondary research is one more. Secondary research is primarily based on the existing literature, anything which is in documented form and related to your uh, topic in hand, your research interest of research, and is documented, becomes a part of your secondary data. Now, how do you actually analyze the qualitative data? Now, since qualitative data is probably too much in content, okay, it's probably detailed. So, first and first, it's very important to have a proper, note or organization of your data. Okay, so it's very important to make it, to avoid getting is sorry, there is a glitch in my internet today. So avoid making it clumsy, you organize it. For instance, you have taken the interviews, so you go for organizing the data, what exactly this each respondent said. You have a note of each answer about each respondent. Then you explore the data, that if there is any common theme, there is any common image, there is common any common thing which does occurs, any common thing which is covering, which is coming through the responses, then you code them. Now when you say this, when you code them, how do you code them? You have different like in step 2 you have come across different themes, some parallel themes, some same themes, you code them but individually. For this qualitative data analysis, you have software like DDoS, you have software like NVivo, which helps you doing this qualitative analysis and helps you with coding And MaxTax also is a very popular software which helps you with qualitative data analysis. Okay, further. So when you're talking about qualitative data analysis, so first comes is your content analysis. Now, when you talk about content analysis, so the name itself says, okay, you need to describe same words, same ideas which you have received from your qualitative data. Okay, example I have shared in front of you. Let's say, for example, you want to talk about thematic analysis. Now, thematic analysis, the name itself says theme. Okay, so if any, you let's say you're talking about understanding or investigating financial understanding in people. So, saving is a theme which is coming out in different ways. I don't spend much. I for when I receive my salary, I first take out towards my investment. Okay, I have the phenomena of saving 30% of my salary. So ways are different, but all in all, they meant the same thing, that is saving. Okay, you need to identify these themes. So this financial understanding have one theme, that is saving, investment. Okay, so talking about these themes, identifying these themes comes under thematic analysis. When you talk about textual analysis, you're talking about different content, structure, any kind of design. Discourse analysis is basically how you have used language and how you have achieved different effects of it. Now, very commonly, which are being used is content and thematic analysis, also narrative analysis. When you are just narrating about their experiences. Okay, all right. Now, a couple of ethical consideration to be done in qualitative research, and I would say that don't take them lightly. These ethical considerations have should be taken, in very serious manner. Reason being, um, nowadays institutions, colleges are paying really attention on these kind of ethical consideration. Like for instance, you cannot um, publish any responses, any answers without the consent of the participant. And I know that it goes without saying that all of you must be taking due um, consent. But however, just to make sure that you should not publish anything without the consent of anyone. So consent is very important, and do not try to manipulate the data. And this consideration is important in qualitative, quantitative, in everywhere. Okay, so also in qualitative analysis, I'll just tell you, there are very high chances that your own biasness reflects. Let's say, for example, you're making you're taking an interview on a particular research problem, and you have certain questions to ask. So when you're noted down the information, when you're taking the responses of the respondents, there are chances that your own biasness or probably your own interest towards that topic reflects in your writing. That, okay, this is this thinking, I think this should be like this way. So even unintentionally, your writing does get influenced by your own biasness, which should be avoided. Okay, so whatever perception, whatever experiences your participants are sharing with you, that should come as it is. Okay, and your participants should know that this is what they are giving, they're sharing their information on. This is what will happen with the information later on, because your own biasness, no, they are not giving any consent. This is complete and this is clear ethical violation. Okay, all right. Now coming to quantitative research. Okay, now In quantitative research, you all know that by far now, that you all know that you get the quantifiable data, which can be ranked, expressed in numbers. So when you do the survey research, you give a set of questions to your respondents in a form of survey or a questionnaire, and they need to answer it. Okay. This particular research, you target towards a specific group. Okay. Although you can conduct it across the different groups also with the help of that survey, and you get the information from them. Now, when you talk about cross sectional survey basically is that when you are conducting the research, or when you are taking the information, when you are conducting the survey through a particular target population at a given point. Okay. For example, you've conducted survey with one group, then with another group, then with another group. Okay, that is cross sectional. However, in longitudinal one, you are conducting survey with the same group in different time durations. So let's say, for example, you want to understand the change in the acceptance level, for instance, at different intervals of time. So you'll go to the same group at different time, and then you'll understand the changes in the behavior. So longitudinal survey is with the same group over different intervals of time. Cross sectional is with a different group at a particular given point in time. So you're not approaching the groups again. Okay. So when you're talking about cross sectional surveys, the same variables are evaluated at a given time. In longitudinal surveys, different variables are analyzed at different intervals of time. So you're approaching the same group, but in different time zones, or different intervals of time. Not time zone, different intervals of time, probably after 3 months or after 6 months, just to understand if there is any change or not. So you might come across with different new variables. Okay, that's what is the difference. Okay, then comes correlational research. Now, correlation research is basically conducted so that you can establish the relationship between two variables or entities. Okay, or how one variable or entity influence the other. What are the changes in them? Okay, so correlation, understand with the name itself, it is talking about the relation. Okay, whether there is any relationship between the variables. If, then what is the extent of that relationship? How one variable is influencing the another one? Okay. Now, researcher basically use these quantitative research designs so that they can relate two or more variables. Okay. Or whether there is a relationship between the variables or not. Examples I have given, for example, like, what is the relationship between stress and depression? Whether there is, firstly, so whether there is any relationship, or to what extent stress causes depression, this kind of research is called as correlational research. Okay. Okay, then comes causal comparative research. Now, basically, this type of research is done when you are trying to understand the cause and effect, whether one variable is dependent on another one, which is called as independent. I told you about independent and dependent, right? Now, you identified the variables from your literature survey, from your literature review. So you want to understand that what kind of change does an independent variable cause independent variable. Okay, what kind of variance is being caused by one into another. Now, when you conduct this kind of research, irrespective, the extent they are related, to what extent they are related, we are trying to understand that how much variation caused in another relation in another variable. Okay, so let's say, for example, like I have given you that, we know that, or we don't want to know that whether there is a good association between good education on a child. We want to understand that, you know how does the good education effect on a child. Okay, so then we are trying to understand that when a good education is being given, what is the changes in an individual as a child. So this is causal comparative research. Okay. Okay, then comes your experimental research, wherein you are trying to test multiple theories. Okay, and you have a theory with you and you want to test it. Okay, you collect the data for it and you test it. That's called experimental research. Now, when you talk about data analysis, like I told you, for qualitative, you have in vivo, maxstack, DDoS. For data analysis in quantitative also, you have SWOT analysis, you have conjoint analysis, cross tabulation, where you want to understand the relationship, and turf analysis. Most importantly, when you talk about quantitative data analysis, here I would like to take your attention that you either can describe your data, that is by descriptive analysis, I told you, which comes under quantitative only, that when you're talking about mean, median, mode, percentage, frequency rate, you just can describe the data also. Okay, like for example, you want to identify the variables which causes volunteering in people, social volunteering, social helping. What are the factors which cause people to volunteer them? Like, you want to identify the age range, you want to identify the income range, what percentage of people of what age does contribute towards the social volunteering. That comes under descriptive analysis. Okay, when you are actually summarizing the variables or understanding their patterns, that's describing the data itself. Now, when you're talking about inferential analysis, example is like, when what exactly does that data mean? What kind of results and predictions should come out of it? That means, for instance, you are trying to describe the relationship between two variables, correlation. You are trying to predict, or you're trying to discuss the extent of that relationship between two variables, regression. Now, want to use ANOVA, analysis of variance, when you want to understand that how much two groups differ from each other. One community is more towards social volunteering, another is less. How much is less or more? That you will come from this inferential analysis by using ANOVA. Okay. Now comes on hypothesis, which I told you in the very starting that it is, we'll be talking in detail about it, which is assumption basically. Now, why I say assumption? Because it is, or it is stated to be tested. Okay, it is stated to be tested. Now, this is that way where you are deriving a one, coming across with a one, that is inductive, which we discussed in the starting. One another thing I would like to tell you, not, I'm sure many of you must be knowing it already, not every research has to have a hypothesis. You can go ahead by answering your research questions and objectives also. Okay. Coming to the different types of hypothesis, there are two primarily: alternative and null hypothesis. Now, alternative hypothesis is always showing a relationship between two variables. There is a relationship, there is an association between good education and good life. It is showing a, you know relationship. Whether there is a relationship or not, that has to be tested, or it has been proved through the research. But alternate hypothesis does reflect a relationship. Now, talking about null hypothesis, it always states no relationship. So you can always assume that, if there is a relationship between good education, good life, the automatic null hypothesis would be there is no relationship between good education and good life. Okay, so this is the key to just to identify that null hypothesis has the no in it. So alternate hypothesis basically are saying that results are not just by any chance. There is a significant investigation happened. There is a theory which is supporting this statement. Okay, on the contrary, when you talk about null hypothesis, so there are either no results or no theory supporting this statement. Okay, so that's alternative and null hypothesis. Now, coming to how exactly you come across these hypotheses when you have to formulate the hypothesis. Now, in the inductive research, when you are conducting an inductive research, you go across with your research investigations, you go by your research findings, interpretation, and then you come across the hypothesis. Now, when you're talking about a deductive research, when you have to finalize this hypothesis before you go on to collect the data and analyze the same, you have to have a clear research questions. When you have clear research questions, you identify your variables. How do you do it? You do it by review of literature. So first you have research questions, then you do the review of literature, which gives you the variables. That's why I always tell you in my webinars also that please do not take literature review just for the sake of it, that we have to conduct the literature review, we have to read so many papers, or these many references we have to note it down. No, it is not to be done just for the sake of it. It is to be done carefully. You have to identify the variables. And maybe in one research, somebody has taken X as dependent variable. You can take it as independent also. You might want to understand the flip side of the relationship. Okay. Then, once you are done with the variables, then you formulate your hypothesis. Because hypotheses, as I told you, are nothing but depicting the relationship between the variables. So once you have variables, then you go ahead with your hypothesis. Will you go for the alternative one or the null hypothesis? Null hypothesis is the it is obviously understood types. So your variable identification is very important. For that, your careful understanding of literature is very, very important. Okay. Okay. Then comes evaluation and justification of your methodology. Now, as I always tell to all of my students also, that it is not just choosing a methodology. Like, for example, majority of the research is conducted back in US. They're mostly focused on qualitative research. Okay. Now, categorizing qualitative or quantitative good or bad is not the choice here. It is like if you have gone for qualitative research, you need to justify why of it. Okay, why you have not chosen another is not that important. Then why you have chosen this particular research methodology is important. Okay, now when you are talking about your objectives, so just in order to avoid further questions that you may have gone for this way of data analysis or data collection or this way, so you being a researcher, get an idea that these kind of tentative methods can be used for the same objective. Try to answer that why you have not gone for those particular methods. Like if somebody say that instead of focus group you could have gone for interviews, so you know that then for this particular research objective I can go for focus group also, but I find this interview best suitable for this. So that why should be answered. Okay, now this is very important. This justification is very important to all the research which you conduct. Okay, now here is, and on your screen you must be seeing the last point: unstructured interviews. Unstructured interviews are basically those interviews which does not have same questions for all the respondents. Okay, now when you do not have the same questions to all the respondents, so generalizability of that particular interview is not the case with all the sample group. Like, what does it means? It means that those questions, or probably the responses given by the people in those questions, cannot be applicable to all in general. However, you conduct these interviews to have an in-depth analysis. Okay, so whenever you are, you know, discussing your methodology, even for your synopsis, even for your research proposal, even you are preparing your research defense viva, make sure that you do not miss justifying your methodology. Even in research papers also, whenever you are writing the methodology section, why of it, why of your research methodology should be clearly discussed. Okay, all right. Now, how you can actually write a strong methodology? First and very clear point is you need to have relevant sources, because, like I said, you need to justify the research methodology. So you may get the justification to be adopted from different reference sources. These reference sources can be should be quoted. Okay, then your methodology will be strong when you'll justify it. Also, when you'll say that the particular methodology would not have given, or probably when you are sure that somebody is stating that quantitative has been adopted but qualitative should have been preferred. Now you'll explain that in your section, that quantitative has is being preferred because of so reason. Qualitative should not have, or may have been limited in so and so aspect. Second thing, research methodology, or probably I said that when you do a literature review, it not only helps you getting the variables, you should also say that with the help of your research methodology, that how a particular gap, let's say for example you go across literature review and then you have found out that a particular research problem is being done by majority of the researchers with qualitative way, and you have adopted quantitative way. So you should be very clear in that aspect, that you have uh, adopted quantitative way which is addressing a gap in your research literature. It should be clear, discussed well, and also when you are writing the limitations, feel free to write any concerns and issue which you have faced during collection of data, or probably analysis of the data. Okay, there is um, no research actually is a perfect research, so there is no issue in citing those limitations as well. Okay, so that is what you have to focus when you're writing a methodology. Now we all are open for the questions for this webinar. Feel free. No, I'll take the questions one by one. Okay, now can we get the material which you are presenting? Yes, of course, you will get the material, you will get the recordings, you will get the certificate also. So all of you will be getting the related material, certificates, everything. Okay, now I'll take the questions and let me scroll up for the questions. This is somebody's tube. So he's asking about the difference between research design and research approach. Okay, now basically when you talk about research design and research approach, so tube basically research design is your overall blueprint. Okay, research approach is overall, research design is your overall approach. Now, when you are talking about research approach, basically it is that particular way of doing that research. What particular methods did you employ? Okay, now for example, your total overall research design would be exploratory research design. Okay, in mixed methodology you have exploratory research design. In that you will collect, you go for qualitative first, then you'll go for quantitative first. So further in that qualitative, how did you go for the data collection, how did you go for data analysis? That is okay. Now what should be actual size of sample from the, what are the criteria to define? See, basically, like I told you, I have answered this question before as well, that when you are going for qualitative research design, when you are choosing a qualitative research method, then you'll go for a smaller sample size. Okay, or quantitative has a difference one. However, when you are when you want to find the actual sample size, then you need to know the population size as well. Okay, generally we take the 95% of confidence, 5% error by chance. For that you need to have a population size to be known. Just in case you do not have a population size which is known, or probably it is indefinite, you may take 10% of it. Okay, generally what we say for quantitative, 100 is the number which seems to give the good results. For qualitative, 10 to 12 is the size with give you good results. Okay, okay, let me take the questions. Uma, I answered your questions before. Tube, yeah. Minakshi, I think I answered your question as well. How can I have a sample size for my thesis? So, firstly, you need to know whether it is qualitative, quantitative. Then you need to know the population size, and if the population size is not known, then 10% of the population generally you may take. And there are various um, uh, you know way of calculating sample also, when you have known the confidence level, which is generally 95%. Population size you should know, and margin of error, so which is 5%. By putting all these in the formulas, you may get the sample size. Okay, Tube, I have explained your. Minakshi and Cube, I think I've mix and match your questions, but I think I have answered all of both of you. Uma, see, statistical analysis generally, we take it as a confusion because we get afraid of numbers. Okay, firstly, we should be known that what exactly are our objectives. Okay, like I have given you various tips in the during the webinar, plus I have given the material as well. So when you are clear what exactly you want to find out, you know what test to be opted for. Second thing, to all of you, there is no need to go for a complicated research methodology. We do not have to employ all the tests in the universe on our research. Not at all. Simple inferential analysis, if you want to do, going for two tests, it's okay. So, Uma, first understand, you want to identify the association between variable, you want to understand the cause and effect between the variable. Just by looking at your objectives, it will give you an idea. Okay, yes, you will get the certificate, Kalpana ji. Yes. Soma Shekhar, you will get the PPTs. I work in Bank of India and I'm in research division. My organization is for more of action applied research and not the academic. How should be my approach? See, basically, Ravindra, your organization is going for more of action research applied research. That means they're asking you to talk about interventions. What kind of, let's say for this, you may, what should be my, firstly, you should understand the latest updates in the banking industry. For this, I can give you that, you may go for the literature for the public banks. Okay, what kind of products they are releasing, what is, because eventually the aim is to get the more profits. So what kind of products they are launching, with what kind of products, what kind of profits they are coming across, what kind of digital marketing strategy is causing more customer intake. So, or you have to, go for more of these kind of researches which is done, or updates in the market. Mixed method effective to get results? Yes, Manova, mixed method is always good. I'm studying the challenges and accomplishment of cross-cultural leaders in a particular community. Is it okay to qualitative study? See, when you're talking, Francis Manova, your topic is to understand challenges and accomplishments. So definitely qualitative research is okay to go ahead with. Okay. Now, if it is yes, normally how many case studies should be appreciated? Now, it depends upon what kind of level of research you are doing. Okay, you may take represent, like you said, cross cultural leaders. You may take one representative or one successful leaders of the different cultures you are studying with. Okay. Yes, Manakshi, ma'am, for example, if in synopsis I have taken 100 responses in sample and then in thesis I should keep the same size or increase. See, we don't change the sample size. Like for sample, for synopsis we have, Manakshi, for different sample size. For thesis we'll take a different one. If you are doing, that's what we do in our pilot study. So let's say in pilot we are doing the pilot study with 100 respondents, and we'll increase the number of respondents when it comes to the main thesis. For samples to be discussed in synopsis, because synopsis is what? Synopsis is a snapshot of what do you say that synopsis is a snapshot of your thesis. Okay, so this is how you may go ahead with. You don't need to change your this thing, sample size. Okay, so there is no need to go for a change for it unless and until you are going for uh, pilot study. So we don't say that we are changing the sample size, because if you say so they may ask you the question. Okay, so we don't go for it. That is not suggested. Okay, now your next question is, what is the relationship between data accuracy and sample size? See, what we say that when you have a larger data, when you have a larger sample size, it gives you diverse range of data, because more data, diverse data, and there are very high chances of you getting accurate results. Okay, so generally, which happens, like more accuracy in the results has been achieved by high sample sizes. Okay, now so for microseconds, you have the question of that how to calculate the sample size. When you have, firstly you need to determine your population size. If known, then you need to have confidence level, which is 95%. You need to determine it, which generally comes up to 95%, and then standard deviation 0.5, what we take is a safe one. Okay, on the basis of it you calculate the sample size. There are many for it. Basic things to know is population size, confidence interval, which is 95%, standard deviation, which we take zero 0.5. On the basis of it you may calculate. Generally, if the population size is not known, 10% of it we take it. How do we write operational definition? We do not change the definitions when we are writing in research. First thing, you quote it and you straight away write them. Thank you, Manova. Thank you so much. So, Sandeep, you when you are writing any operational definitions, also you just quote the source and write the definitions in inverted commas. Okay. Are there any questions further? Please feel free to write. See, we don't need to be afraid of research methodology, or probably we don't take it to very hard one. See, methodology is a plan. It's a major plan. Procedure is step by steps to be taken. Like in methodology, we say we'll do data collection, we'll do analyze. Procedure is how actually we will collect the data. We'll introduce the methods also. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See, all of you will be getting the PPT. I think all of you are aware that you do get the PPTs, and you do get the certificates for your. Thank you, Ravinder. Thank you so much, everyone. Now, for research paper publication, how to select journals, it depends upon which domain you are doing it. And what are your criteria? Are you looking for UGC care journals? Are you looking for Scopus? What kind of indexing you are looking for? And on that database, you can visit the website, and then you can see what are the indexed journals they have, and you can choose accordingly. Any questions do we have further? What are the minimum of articles we should refer in writing a thesis? So, Manna, see, generally we say that 10 to 12 years. Okay. However, depends upon your topic of interest. If you need to source, or if you need to cite any article more older than that, you may please freeze to. However, we needs to make sure that our literature is not too old. So 10 to 12 years is of preference. Yes, Uma, it's okay. Yes, yes, Meenakshi. I have a question apart from this topic: is how can we check the plagiarism? There are many free plagiarism softwares. Couple of them require subscription, but if you want to go for with vast first or second usage, they allow you for the free. Like plagiarism checker is a free one. Turnitin needs subscription, but however, also you can go to your university's library, because every library has a plagiarism checking software with them. So prior to submission, you can check with them as well. Ravindra, okay, myself, the name, you know it, and I'm currently based in Melbourne, Australia, wherein I'm taking the management courses, management classes for MBAs with a couple of places here, with RMIT, CIM here, and I'm also taking sessions for PhDs and masters in Dubai in online capacity. So before Melbourne, I was in Dubai for 6 years, where I was taking management courses again, and I've done my PhD from India. Particularly, if I don't know how many of you know it, Jamia Hamdard, which is based in Delhi. So all in all, I have a teaching experience of 14 years. I hope that's enough, Ravindra. Meenakshi, you may check. There are a couple of softwares which are free, which, or even if they require subscription for the first couple of use, you may go for free. Without subscription, you may check your plagiarism. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. So, when we'll have the next webinar, so we'll keep you updated about it, and you may please register yourself, and we'll be having an enriching discussion once again. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. Thank you, Ravinder. It's always great to interact with such an interactive audience. Thank you so much. So, we'll see you all in the next webinar. Thank you. Thank you all.